Good afternoon, Dawn.
Hello, Christina.
How are you today?
I'm quite well, thank you.
Right, okay. So the last time we spoke, we talked about working with creativity. And so today we're going to work with creativity on the issue that you've brought. Are you still okay with that?
Yes.
Oh, good. So tell me a little bit about the area that you would like to work on today.
Today, I'd like to work on boundaries.
Okay. And do you have any particular boundaries in mind, or just boundaries in general that you would like to work on?
I think, let me see, I think perhaps boundaries in general. And what brought this about, Christina, is that I was actually asked quite recently to run a workshop, or let's say a seminar. And for me, the time was quite short, not enough time.
Okay.
And I felt as though I agreed to a few things that, on reflection, I didn't really want to agree to.
Okay.
So
Very good boundary issue, that is. Yeah. Happens to all of us, that we find ourselves getting swept along with something, and then when we think about it later, we're not sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a good place to start then, sort of with that particular thing. So what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to get back into that memory, maybe, of when you were being asked to, sort of to help out or to run this seminar, and when you sort of started to recognize that maybe not. So just going back to that particular time, and I would like you to create something that for you represents that boundary that you felt was either invaded or that you didn't allow yourself to protect. And I'm going to give you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'll give you 10 minutes to create that boundary in whatever way that you need to create it. Okay. Have you got as enough on that as you would like to get on it for the time being? You might, there will be some time to add something to it as well. I think we will probably have a break. So yeah, I don't want to do anything with that at the moment. So this image is what I'm going to call your wobbly boundaries, the boundaries that you're not having as strong as you would like to have. And I'd like you to think for a moment of boundaries, or a boundary that you have that you know nobody could ever breach, that nobody could ever, get you to change your mind on, something that you have a very clear boundary and you're able to say yes, or you're able to say no, something that you would say, I've actually got a very strong boundary when it comes to that. Can you tell me about a strong boundary that you have?
A strong boundary I have, it's, I would say it's my devotional time.
Yes. Okay, that's a good one. So when you set your time aside and absolutely nothing, well, I expect if it was matter of life or death, probably, you'd be able to say, well, actually, I can release that. But you have a time when you know that you're going to do your work, your prayer work or your devotional work, and you'll always put that in. Okay, yeah. Great. So I'd like you to get in touch with that sense of that strong boundary and knowing what you do, and then to just create a picture. I'm only going to give you 3 minutes to do this, but something that represents for you that strong boundary. Just create something that for you represents that strong boundary, because we all have strong boundaries and what we call wobbly boundaries. I can see you're sticking on those stars.
Yes, these are like precious stones now.
Okay. Excellent.
I quite like to use.
Yeah. So does that feel like you're completed now? Okay, good.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you just to put that image aside for a moment or two, and we're going to go back to your wobbly boundaries image. And
The first image.
the first image, yes, the boundaries that you felt you had allowed somebody, or you'd allowed yourself to get involved in something that you later thought you didn't really want to be involved in. Yeah, good. So tell me the story of your image. Tell me the story of your image.
Okay. I suppose I felt I had a lot going on,
Mm-hmm.
and preparing for work, various things to do, and that's this in the middle,
Mhm.
or the woolly bit. Now, I actually enjoy what I do,
Right,
but this represents a fullness that it was, my timetable was already full.
right. Okay.
So that's what the middle bit represents, the fullness of the activities I had to do.
So your timetable was already full with the activities that you had to do. So tell me, which is the bit in your image that represents you saying yes when you might not have been fully engaged with saying yes?
Let me see.
Where is that represented in your image?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. So when the person, what I heard you say originally was that you were asked to do a seminar and you said yes, but then afterwards you realized that that wasn't really what you wanted to do. So so going back to the time when you said yes, which I'm wondering where that bit of you saying yes is represented here.
I think the middle bit represents so much.
Right.
It's in the middle.
Right.
All of this just represents a lot of what was going on.
A lot of what was going on.
Yes.
And what I'm noticing is there's like these little strands all running through it. And over on the side beside the red feather, there's kind of like a strand of cream, looks like wool. Not sure what it is, like something running through it. What would happen if you pull that strand?
Okay, is it about in front of the, I'm just wondering whereabouts it is.
So if you go over, what I'm seeing is on my left-hand side near your hand.
That'll be on my right then.
On your right, okay, on your right. There's a little piece of thread, sort of like a goldeny color thread.
Oh yeah, okay, this bit.
Yeah. Tell me about that bit of thread, that golden bit of thread there.
There was a space missing. And I thought, oh, I just need to fill this space.
There was a space missing and you just thought you'd fill it.
Yeah, there was an empty space, sorry. There was an empty space and it wasn't filled.
And it was, so what does that mean for you when there's an empty space that needs to be filled?
I need to fill it.
And you need to fill the empty space?
Yes.
Tell me a bit more about that. What does that mean?
When I looked at my activity and I noticed I had put some glue on it, but it wasn't filled. So I could see the glue and I realized that, oh, I've forgotten something. It needs to be filled. And therefore, I think leaving it empty, I would actually look at it and think, oh, I need to put something there because the glue is there. And the glue is there because I wanted to put something there.
So the glue is there because you wanted to put something there, and there was an empty space.
Yes.
And you wanted to put something in the empty space.
Yes.
How is that similar to when you said yes to something? Was there an empty space that you were then saying, oh, there's an empty space and I will fill it. How is
I
that?
think
How is that
exactly.
similar?
I think you're exactly right. Because yes, there was an empty space
Mhm.
and it needed to be filled. And I said, and I agreed to fill the space. Yes.
And you agreed to fill the space. And then what happens after you agree to fill the space?
I realized that I did not give myself sufficient time to think it through. I agreed with yes, I would have on reflection, that is it. I did not give myself sufficient time to think it through. And I did not think like what's represented here in the middle. I didn't think about all the other things I had to do, or perhaps to me it seemed quite a bit. So I didn't actually think about how that would impact.
Right. So that bit in the middle is you not thinking about the consequences or how it would impact on other things in your life.
Yeah.
And this red feather here, you said you like feathers, and you've got at least 5 feathers around that I can see.
Yeah.
So what are they representing for you?
These represent softness.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Soft.
And there's always something, I think, gentle or soft in everything. And I suppose a part of me wanting to fill the space is wanting to accommodate.
Right.
So maybe the feathers represent me wanting to accommodate, which I think it's a good thing to do.
Right. So the feathers are representing you having softness and gentleness, and there's a space that you feel it's a good thing to fill the space.
Yes.
So what would the feathers like to say to that bit in the middle that looks very full, as you said? What would the feathers need to say to that bit?
I think the feathers would say to this bit, perhaps take some things off and maybe space them out some more, or just space them out, or maybe remove some.
So take some out or maybe remove some. And
Yes.
how does that bit in the middle that is very full and busy, how does it respond, or what response does it have to the feathers that say take something out or remove some?
I think as I look at it, I think it would be spread it out rather than remove, basically make more space.
Spread it out and make more space.
Yes.
And what's the similarity between make more space that you had to fill up and make more space that is spreading out?
I'm not quite sure how to answer that. Can you sort of rephrase it?
Yeah, so in the beginning you said that there was a lot of space and you wanted to stick something in the space because you didn't like the space. And the message that you're getting is that you want to space things out a bit. And I'm just wondering if what's the similarity between the space that you wanted to fill up and the space that you want to spread out a bit?
Okay, I think the similarity could be wanting to accommodate, wanting to do things, but giving myself more time.
Right, right. So there's the wanting to do things, but recognizing that it would be good to give yourself more time.
Yes.
And is there anything else that bit in the middle, anything else that bit in the middle wants to say about that? So it's about recognizing that you need to give yourself more time.
Yeah. I think the bit in the middle is not happy with so many things being like pushed together, and not having that space to spread out. I think it would be a lot happier if it was spread out. So I still have the colors here. Wouldn't get rid of this, but basically spread it out.
And basically spread it out.
Yeah.
And when you spread it out, then what happens?
I feel happier.
Okay, so can you spread it out now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now
So
physically.
yeah. As you look at that image now, tell me the story of the image now. What's changed?
The story is that when I first started to create more space by, let's say, untangling the middle bit,
Mhm.
I felt a little sad because I thought, oh, it's going to look rather empty now. I almost wanted to put it back. So, however, I continued.
Right.
And as I continued, I started to feel happier.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, within myself.
Yeah.
And there was another space that was still a little crowded. And I thought, I need to spread this out. I didn't want it to cover the feather, but as I actually spread it out quite carefully, again, there's that happiness, there's that joy, because I didn't want to lose the feather. And what came to mind is that I can spread it out, but there is still that beauty, there's still that softness, that beauty that I actually think that, to me, feather represents something soft. So there, yes. So to me, there's a lot of happiness. And it's almost like a heart. I can almost see a heart shape in this.
Okay.
At the top.
If you hold it up and that, let's have a look at what it looks like now. So as you look at this now and think about your boundaries, and there's some space and there's some softness and there's some gentleness, I'm just wondering what you're thinking about your boundaries now, in particular in relationship to that particular question that you were asked to help out with the doing the seminar.
Create more space.
So what I'd like you to do is have a look at your, show us your strong boundary, a boundary that you know that is absolutely you, and you'll commit to doing that for yourself.
That's the second picture.
Yeah, the second picture. So tell me the story of your strong boundary, that boundary of yours that, is sacrosanct, I mean, you know what you're going to do and you go and do it. Tell me the story of that boundary.
I wanted to make it beautiful. I would have loved to have filled it all up with the stones, but some of the stars are quite difficult to take off.
Right.
So I wanted it to represent beauty.
Beauty.
Yes.
So your strong boundary represents beauty.
Beauty. Yes, beauty. Enjoyment. I wanted it to be pretty. I wanted it to have the stones because the stones are precious.
Yeah.
So these represent something precious. I wanted to add nearly all the colors I have on it, but chose colors which, for example, the pink represents comfort. So in my strong boundary, I can feel or do feel comforted. And blue represents, because God. So I went and I chose, I don't have A3, but I have A4 paper in blue. So I wanted it to be like still and blue. Yeah, blue is a calm color.
And you can see that there's a difference between your strong boundary and your what started out as a wobbly boundary, but I'm imagining is getting a bit stronger. What does the strong boundary, the boundary that says, I know where I am, I know what I want, I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to think about that before I think about anything else, and make that a priority. What does the strong boundary think about the wobbly boundary, and how it sometimes gets sucked into doing things that it maybe on reflection wished it hadn't agreed to?
I think busy.
Mhm.
The messy what can I call it? It seems very busy. So I think the word that it would perhaps speak to it is it seems busy.
It seems busy, not you seem busy.
I think I would say the picture seems busy.
The picture seems busy. And what message, or what does the strong boundary want to say to the boundary that is busy and that looks busy?
So the strong boundary want to say it's about creating more time.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's about learning how to declutter.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So it's about learning, needing more time and learning how to declutter. And if the wobbly boundary, as we've called it, looks across at the strong boundary, what would the wobbly boundary need to say to the strong boundary?
The wobbly boundary would say that you have a lot of space. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
It seems clear, and I'm smiling, so it seems happy.
Yeah, yeah. And what is there anything else that the wobbly boundary needs in order to be more like the stronger boundary?
Yes, I think it would be again to rearrange, to be rearranged.
To be rearranged.
Arranged, yes.
To be rearranged.
Rearranged, not necessarily get rid of things, because that time and space is needed to think it through. But again, just continue to spread things out.
Spread things out and rearrange. And when things are spread out and rearranged, then what happens to the wobbly boundary?
But let me see the wobbly boundary. You know, the wobbly boundary will feel more settled, more contented, and assured.
Right. And what would happen if you took the image of the strong boundary and put it close to or even over the image of the wobbly boundary? What happens then?
When I put it over, do I turn it over?
No, just put it on top of the wobbly boundary so that it looks like the wobbly boundary is a bigger piece of paper than
it is.
So it'd be interesting to see how you feel about it if you placed the strong boundary on top of the wobbly boundary.
Okay, I've done that.
And then what happens? Now how does it look and feel?
It's hidden. It's hidden. I can't actually see all the bits, the components that makes up the wobbly picture.
Right. And what if the wobbly picture had a voice now, what would it be saying?
It's basically remove this, just sort of remove this because it needs space.
Oh, it needs space. So the wobbly boundary is saying it needs space. So, you know, at the beginning of this, you said that it had space and you had to fill the space up.
Yes.
So tell me, what is the purpose of the space? What is it that the space really needs or wants? If you think about it now, seeing as, you know, you've got space on that strong boundary, you had space on the wobbly boundary and then you filled it up because you thought, oh, and that. But if it now had space, as you move things, it's got a bit more space. What would space give the wobbly boundary that it hasn't got right now?
I think it will give it more, few things, more freedom of mind.
Yeah.
And there's a word I'm thinking of. It's decisive, to be decisive.
Ah,
So decisiveness.
it
I
would be
think
more
that's the word.
decisive. So if it had more space, it would be able to have freedom of mind and to be more decisive.
Yes.
And as you look at the image of your wobbly boundary now, what needs to happen to that image in order for there to be more space and more decisiveness?
I think to again, there's a shape in the middle that's almost like a heart,
Okay.
which wasn't intentional. So I would like to keep that shape.
Uh-huh.
And because initially at one time you asked me to spread it out and what it would look like or feel like, and I have done. And to me, it's a lot more space than I had at the beginning. So I could actually spread out as I'm doing. Is it okay? I'm doing that now. Is that okay?
Absolutely. It's your image. You can do exactly what you want to it to make it right for you.
Yeah, I just automatically started to spread it out.
Mhm.
So I think, yeah, I've spread it out a little, Christina, and still has a heart,
Uh-huh.
but I feel happier already.
Right.
Just spreading it out, it's still quite, yeah, just spread it out a little. It's still beautiful because I don't want to lose that shape. And I have spread it out a little more. It still retained its shape.
And it still retained its shape, and
yes,
it's beautiful, and it's spread out.
Yes.
And if you look at that image now,
Mm-hmm.
and where it was before and where it is now, how do you feel about that, the seminar now? If somebody right now came along and said, Dawn, we've got this seminar we'd like you to do, what response might you have now in this opportunity with space and time and decisiveness?
I would like to do the seminar, but more on my terms.
Right. Yeah.
More on my terms, yes. Even if I do believe in collaborating,
Right.
but it will be more on my terms so that I don't feel that I have agreed to things which on reflection,
yeah,
I'm not very happy with.
Yeah. So, you know, that feeling that you got that let you know that you were, you know, there was a lot going on. And where are you now in relationship to that and those requests when they come forward for you, when they come to you?
Christina, I feel a lot happier inside. Okay. And I feel that basically this activity is basically, I've rearranged it.
Yeah.
So it's helping me to think that, yes, I can actually rearrange things and I'm feeling a lot happier.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's answering. Have I answered?
Well, I mean, I think what you've said is that actually you feel like what I'm hearing you say is that you're in a much better place to be able to decide what you want to do that suits you rather than what suits somebody else.
Yes, yes, yes.
And how is that similar to the you that knows that what they want in relationship to your dedication to prayer and that kind of thing? What's the similarity now between those two?
The word that comes to mind is more balance.
Right. Okay. more
more
balance.
balance, because yes, I've created more space and
Mhm,
it's still beautiful. I do like it. In fact, I prefer it now
mhm.
to when I first started and everything was in the middle.
Yeah,
So it feels like something that I could manage. It's manageable.
right. So it's
And
manageable
yeah.
and there's more space
Mhm.
and you can be more decisive and you can
Yes.
be soft and gentle.
Yes.
Is there anything else that needs to happen in order to strengthen up that boundary so that you can have more choice with when you say yes to things?
When I did the strong boundary picture, I very quickly put some what I call gems
Mhm.
along the side to represent a wall,
Right,
and it's basically to protect what was inside.
right.
So the question was, so I'm thinking that is to basically, I don't know if it's to protect my interest or protect what's I think and knows best for me.
Mhm. So are you asking that as a question or are you making that as a statement that you,
As a statement,
so that you know what's best for you
and protect what's best for me?
and protect what's best for you? And can you put that little wall of jewels around it to protect you? And you might not need to do that. You might not need to do that physically, but can you, in your mind's eye, do that, put that wall around it?
Yes, I can. I can.
Yeah. And then what happens when you put that wall around it and your choices and being decisive and keeping space?
What happens then is that it's almost as though an image I have is that, yes, I've got my foot down.
Mhm.
So I think I have my foot down, obviously my other foot will accompany it. So my feet's down. So it's basically, there's a sort of grounding
Okay.
and a steadiness,
Uh-huh.
and not pride, but I suppose confidence.
Great. Great. So there's a sense of putting your foot down and there's a sense of grounding and there's a sense of confidence.
Yes.
So what I'd like to suggest is that we have a little break and then we regroup and work out where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So when Dawn comes back, do we need to have a little chat about what you're noticing, and let's see where we take it from there.
Sounds good.
I've got some ideas and you might have some other ideas which would be good to put in there. Stop it. Oh,
All right.
Lindsay. You tired?
It's a good job I can edit the video.
Have you got any have you got any plans? Yeah. Have you got any plans for this week when you're on your own and husbandless?
I'm going over to Marilyn's to help her pack.
Oh
Not sure
gosh,
that
oh, yeah.
counts.
Oh dear.
Um, she said she needed some help, so I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, I spoke to her on Saturday. So it looks like she's getting things all sorted and she'll be off.
Yeah, I think she was having somebody come round today to look at the flats around.
Yeah, I just hope it all works out well for her and she's not doing what so many people do. Over there is still the same as over here, and when I get there,
Yeah, I know.
I'm just hoping that, but at least she'll be in the warmth, which is where she wants to be. So
I think so, and you know, Marcus is there on hand. I mean, he's actually going to be closer to her than say the girls, because the girls
Yeah.
are all
Yeah.
scattered a bit, aren't they, in the
Yeah.
UK? But
Yeah.
Marcus is quite close at hand. So,
Mm.
although I know she won't be leaning on him too much. Obviously, he's got his girlfriend and so on. But
Yeah, hopefully.
yeah.
So she will come back to supervision, not to October, but to the November one. She
Oh,
said,
okay.
even if
Okay.
she says, even if it's just to come and say goodbye.
Yeah, nice.
Right, I wonder where Dawn is.
Maybe she thought I meant quarter past.
It's always funny when people go off and you sort of think, well, where are they? Do we know where they are? Yeah.
I suspect John thought we meant quarter past.
Yeah. That's okay. Thank you for that reminder, by the way. I just know I did notice it. Time for a break. It was good. Yeah. Oh. What's interesting is when you share a picture, it takes up my whole screen. It goes to whole screen. It doesn't.
You can click on your keyboard, just go to escape.
Yeah. Oh, right. And then it'll
resize it, and then you can drag the box as big or as small as you want.
Okay. I was always afraid to do anything in case I just, locked everybody out and off. So yeah.
No, you can't do that. No, that's a problem I have as well. It fills up my whole screen, which actually I must perhaps test out with you one time, because I don't like to. Because I very rarely have mine on full screen. I nearly always hit escape as soon as anybody shares, so that then I can manage the size of my screens.
Okay.
I usually make the picture quite small and the people quite big, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Oops, looks like Dawn is coming back.
There she is.
Have you had a little break?
Yeah.
So Dawn, where are you now with the work that we've just done? What's your sense of where you are?
Is that I'll think about, like, for example, what we've done, because I need to reflect. I like to reflect.
Right. Okay.
So it feels as though I'm actually getting to a point of feeling more comfortable with maybe doing things with perhaps not being selfish, but basically acknowledging when my cup is full, let's say.
Right.
Acknowledging when I need to have more space, and to be able to, to say to someone what I can do and what I can't do. Okay.
Yeah. So that is definitely about you having a stronger boundary in terms of you, and I really don't like the word selfish, because people call other people selfish when they tend to want them to do things that they want them to do rather than things that you want to do. And that whole idea that, this is your life, nobody else's life, it's your life. And how can I be selfish about my own life? It's not possible. It's not really possible. So, you know, when we talked earlier, we talked about, you know, sort of that your strong boundary is around your devotional work and your prayer and things like that. And you're able to set a clear boundary which says that time is mine. And I guess you would never even consider that you were selfish when you were doing that. That is something that's really important to you and something that you know, make sure you have time for, and you do it in the way that you want and the time that you want. Have you got any other places that are not to do with your devotional time where you're able to say for you what's right and what's wrong and what works for you, where you have another strong boundary, something completely different?
I'm really trying to think. There must be others.
I'm sort of thinking about, you know, do you drive? Do you have sort of strong boundaries about the rules of the road that you cover, or strong boundaries about, you know, your friends or family, or even the type of work that you take on, you know, any sort of other area of your life where you feel like, yeah, I have a strong boundary. I know where the deal breakers are, and I'm never going to overstep that boundary.
I think it's what comes to mind is like, it sounds really strange, but we have a driveway,
Right.
and sometimes we've lowered the front,
Okay.
which says no parking. It doesn't say no parking, but that's a message.
Yeah.
And sometimes certain, let's say, neighbours or people who live in the area on the other road have in the past parked their cars. So a few neighbours, maybe not exactly next door to me, but within the neighbourhood,
Right.
have parked their cars, and they have come into our space.
Right. Right.
Or I've had to look out to see who the people are and then go and ask them not to basically take up that space, because it makes it difficult for people who are parked in the driveway to actually go out of the driveway.
Yeah. So basically you have a strong boundary when somebody invades your space in that way.
Yes.
Which is interestingly enough, that boundary is when somebody invades your space and it's a very clear marked space, i.e. you've got a dropped curve.
Yes.
And somebody comes and parks on it. What is different between that strong boundary and when somebody knocks on your head and says, oh, I'd like you to do a seminar, or I'd like you to do this, which is overstepping, which is actually starting to encroach on your driveway?
Because it's actually because it's visual. I can actually see.
You can see it.
I can
Right.
see the cars. I can,
Right.
yeah, so it's having that visual image, it's there, I can see it.
So when somebody asks you to do something, where is it that locates itself in your body? So if I said to you, Dawn, I would like you to, I've got this training tomorrow and basically Lindsay can't help me, and you know an awful lot about what we're doing, and can you come and help me? I'd really appreciate it if you could come and help me. If I asked you that question, what happens inside your head?
Immediately, it's almost as though if I can do it, it's as though I will say, okay, I'll help out, I'll do it.
Right.
Without thinking about the consequences.
So so immediately it goes into, if I can help out, if there's anything I can do, I will do it.
Yeah.
So what would help you to be able to take that breath and think, hang on a minute, does this suit me?
Sorry.
Yeah, what would need to be present for you to be able to do that?
I think it's for me to going forward, think about it.
Right.
It's
And
very,
you know, in your image where you've got lots of bits of wool
yes,
on it, I would like you to start pulling off a piece of wool and tell me what happens when you start to take it off. Your
okay.
image.
I like the shape. I don't really want to ruin the shape.
So if you like the shape and you don't want to ruin the shape, my interpretation is that is that you don't want anything to change.
It's
But
sort
in
of-
order to change what we're doing, we have to sometimes take things off and put things on and move it around, because otherwise it'll just remain the same.
okay, what I'm doing is that I'm cutting some off.
Okay. Yep. Whatever, however you want to do that.
Yeah, actually it looks better. It's actually looking better. I didn't want to, but it's looking better.
It's looking better. So what
Yeah.
is it about it that's looking better? What is that?
There's less on it.
There's less on it.
Yeah.
So you keep coming back to space. If there's
Yes.
less on it, my guess is there's more space.
Yeah. I'm cutting a bit more so that although I'm creating space, I still want it to look good.
So where is the time on your image? So you said that you had more time, you wanted more time. So you want more space and you want more time.
Yes.
How do you make that show up on your image?
What I'm doing now, I'm
Right.
literally cutting some of the wool off.
Okay.
So where I had quite a bit of wool in the middle,
Uh-huh.
I have actually created space. And you know, I can actually see the space. Before I couldn't. The middle was all piled up. That's how I felt.
Right.
And as we've progressed, and I've spaced things out, and now I'm actually cutting things off. At first, I was reluctant.
Mhm.
I didn't want to spoil the shape. But now that I'm actually cutting things off, I'm actually enjoying cutting.
So you're enjoying cutting things off. And
Sorry,
when you
Christina?
cut things off, you're enjoying cutting things off. And when you cut things off and make more space, what
Yes.
happens to time? Where is time?
It's odd, but it's almost as though I've created time.
You have created time.
Yeah, it's almost as though the space is time.
The
I don't
space,
know if that makes sense, but that's how it feels.
the space is time. So tell me more about that time when space is time.
It's as I look at the picture, the space is time. I can actually see. I don't know if I can see more clearly. There's still a shape,
Uh-huh.
but I'm intrigued that although there is a shape, I've managed to see. I can actually see inside. If that makes, I can actually see inside the shape.
Uh-huh. So you can see inside the shape, and that's given you more time.
Oh, have I gone?
No, you haven't gone.
Okay,
No.
I can't see my. Okay, there. It went off. So, Christina.
Yeah.
So I've created more space. What did you say?
I said, so you've created more space. And what does it take for you to make more time?
Oh, what I have done here is basically cut things off.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it means, cut things off. So it
So
literally means, yes.
So when you cut things off, it gives you more time and it gives you more space.
Yes.
And that's like what? When you cut things off and it gives you more time and it gives you more space, that's like what?
It's like, a word that comes, it's almost like freedom. It's almost, I can't actually think of the word, but I'm happy or pleased that I can see inside my picture. So it's more clear.
So it's more clear. And you said
Yes.
freedom. And
More
you can see-
contentment.
and contentment.
Yes.
And what happens when you've got more freedom and you've got more space and you've got more time and you're more content, and somebody says, Dawn, can you help me out, please? I need you to do a seminar next week. Then what happens when you have more space, you have more time, you have more freedom, and you're more content?
I think I can do the seminar, but I have to be careful that the seminar does not require an awful lot in a short space of time.
So how can you be careful? What do you need to do in order to make sure that you're careful and you do it in the time that you want to do it and take the space?
I think at the beginning it will be to say what I have, to say this is what I can do.
Right.
And this is the time I have. So it's basically for me to go with what I can offer, rather than maybe take on what others maybe want me to do.
So it's about you knowing what you want to offer rather than what other people want you to do.
Yeah.
So is that the same feeling as when you have that dropped curb and you're able to go and talk to people and say, please, can you just remove your car because we can't get out? Of you taking ownership of something that is your space and your time?
It's not, I don't know if it's the same feeling, but what I do know is that there's more clarity.
Right, there's more clarity.
Yes.
So you know, okay, so I know that you're annoyed, but you could do the same thing by being just clear and quiet with them to say, excuse me, you know, there is a drop curb here, and if you park there, it stops me getting out. You could do that in a quiet voice. And I'm just wondering what it would take for you to do the same kind of thing with a seminar, so that it was more like the drop curb, that you can say, I don't know if I want this happening in my life right now. I want to choose what I want to have happening.
So that after the activity, I can say, okay, what is going on for me when I actually when I say I'm upset, I don't approach them being upset. I am polite to them. Right. But I know inside I'm thinking, okay, don't you know what that means? It's basic to say that to, in my head, to myself when I'm asked, is to basically say to myself, you know, that's a lot that's been asked of you. Don't you know what that means?
So that is very, very similar to you thinking about somebody parking in your curb space. You know, it's like, you know, you have a choice about the curb. You have that drop curb on purpose so you can come in and out freely and have the space and the freedom to come and go as you please. And when somebody blocks that freedom, then you get annoyed about it. But in the past, you haven't responded very well when somebody asks you to do something. You go ahead and then you get annoyed a bit later and say, oh my goodness, why have I decided to do this? Now I don't have the time, I don't have the space. And what I'm saying is, what happens for you to be able to crunch that up so that when somebody asks you, you're able to check in and say, oh, how do I feel about this? What would happen if you saw it as the drop curb and say, I wonder how I feel about this. Am I going to do something about it, or is it okay?
I'm thinking is to maintain this image actually in my mind.
Yeah.
To maintain the image, because that's the one that I could think of when you asked me. I
Yeah.
couldn't think of anything else. But
Yeah.
space
Yeah.
is something that I don't like. My space, my physical space. I haven't thought about my, the mental space.
Yeah.
But I really don't like my physical space to be invaded, whether it's in the kitchen or the curve. But the curve came to mind.
But your physical space is being invaded when you take on doing things that you A, don't like the way it's set out, or B, it's you're already really busy. Then it is your physical space that eventually is taken up. Because you have to do something, you have to create it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It means that because I'm paper based, it means that I sort of look through my files and paper gets put here, papers get put there. So I then now have to find time to go back and tidy those papers away in their correct space.
Yeah. So could you draw the seminar question like it was the curb?
Do another drawing now.
Yeah, do another drawing now.
Creative.
And actually say, well, okay, I would like this, that question. I mean, we've used seminar, but it could be anything that somebody asks you to do that is going to take up your mental and physical time, space, and freedom, a bit like the curb. Could you represent that in a picture similar to the curb?
Okay, so I want to make sure that I actually understand. So I need to create a piece now and
symbol or something that has the same qualities as the way that you feel when somebody invades your space with the curb. But when somebody asks you to do something, they're also invading your space. Although at the beginning, it's just your thoughts, it is actually your time and your energy as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to create something that when you look at it, you can ask yourself, is this something I want to do or not?
Okay.
Because in that image is going to be that representation for you.
Okay.
And just a minute or two, literally, this is just a very quick, something as a reminder.
Mm-hmm. Eventually I understood, and what I did was I went back to the devotion or time, which I protect. It means a lot to me to try and fit that in within my day, preferably in the morning. And so what I have done is I've done actually the cross. When you said, okay, because I started with more things, but when you said, okay, doesn't have to be busy or a lot, it can be just very simple. I thought, okay, this is what I'll do. So the cross is a symbol that I can actually maybe even put it up. I've got some boards on my wall to remind me of things. And that's a symbol to say, okay, I protect my devotional time, so therefore I can protect other time in the same way.
Absolutely. So if I say, oh, I'd like you to do this seminar and I'd like you to be doing it like this, how might you respond now?
Let me think about it.
Perfect. Yeah. And how long do you need to think about it, Dawn? Like, can you give me your answer tomorrow? Would that be quick enough or?
See, that's my problem. That has been a problem. Because when someone has asked,
I'm asking you that question now. So,
are you asking me that now, not to think about it?
No, I don't want to think about it. So how might you respond to me if I said, oh, but Dawn, it's very important that I know today or tomorrow, I really need to know the answer to this. You just told me you need to think about it. How long do you need to think about it? I need to know the answer.
I would say, give me a couple of days.
Okay. You need to say it with a bit more strength. I just need a couple of days. I need to think it through.
Yeah.
Look
So I
at
need
your
to say
symbol. Look at your symbol.
Yes.
Now give me an answer.
Okay, looking at it does it I would basically just say I would need more time.
Yeah.
So can I get back to you in 2 days or within 2 days?
Yeah. And, you know, what would happen if you were completely uninterested in doing the seminar? So if I asked you to do a seminar on wagging dogs' tails, and what does that tell you about life?
Mm-hmm.
What might you say to me?
Well, now
Mm-hmm.
the old me, well,
Now,
I
I'm
say
not
the
worried
old,
about the old me. I want to know the new me.
okay, the new me now would accept and to say, well, basically, I'm not experienced in that area.
Not interested in that area might also be it's not my area of interest. So, you know, you really need to find somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that is what I need to say. Yeah, I need to.
Yeah. So thinking about your wobbly boundary that you started off with, as you look at that image now, what's changed in that image? Because we've done quite a lot of work. And if you were to add or take away or change it. So as you look at that now,
Yes.
what's changed?
What's changed is that I have created space.
Right.
The heart is still there, which it wasn't intentional for me to do a heart.
Right.
But it's still there. There's space, there's clarity, and I actually feel happier.
Right. And if you took the image of your symbol and put that on top of that image, the wobbly boundary, now then tell me what's changed.
It's like, that's it. Peace.
Right.
Feels
That's
very peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes life so much more simple when you have clear boundaries and you're able to say yes or no, or I'll think about it. You know, there's only 3 answers to everything. Yes, no, or let me think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how are you doing now, Dawn?
I am feeling, I know, this just makes it, because it's so simple,
Mm-hmm.
and, it just brings more peace, maybe more satisfaction. I like the fact that it's just so simple.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know something? When we clear our boundaries up, life becomes simple. The thing that makes it complicated, and they say, oh, I ought to do it, I should do it, they've asked me to do it, they'll be upset, or they need me, and we go into all of that stuff inside of our head, which is just the cotton wool inside our head, and we lose touch and lose sight of what's actually going on in here. So having that symbol, you can say, have it on your wall, and you can say, oh, hang on a minute, let me check in with myself.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, definitely. Because
so Lindsay, you've been sort of watching this going on. What do you have to say? And thank you, by the way, for your little hints and tips. That's been really helpful.
You're welcome. Well, it has been fascinating, and it's been quite a journey. I can see that, Dawn. I think my final reflection would be the wonderful clarity and prettiness and strength that was in the devotional boundary, your strong boundary. The wonderful simplicity of the cross as your symbol of strength and certainty. And the contrast of those two with the wobbly boundary and the messiness and the complexity that originally existed. And whilst we haven't seen it, I know from what you've said that you have started to transform your wobbly boundary by cutting things out and taking things off and so on, and to give you that space and time.
Oh my goodness, that really has changed.
So there's
Wow.
this complexity in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the difference, you know, there's breath in that one, isn't there? There's a lot of breath in it.
Yeah, you can actually breathe. Yeah,
Yes.
Really intense.
Yeah. Anything that you want to add? Anything you want to take away?
It's really amazing. It's really amazing to see, as you use the word, the transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And also to see the symbol of the devotion, the cross,
Mm-hmm.
and putting it on top of the picture that was really very clustered and full, brought such peace and clarity.
Yeah.
And also what you said is basically the image or the feeling that I have when someone encroaches on my space. It basically, when I agree to do, let's say, seminars or workshops or whatever, it's basically the same. My physical space is still being encroached on, which I didn't actually think of it in that way. Yeah. And just basically chipping away, cutting things off helps.
Yeah. Because that's something had to change, otherwise it just remains the same.
Yeah. And it's amazing I didn't want to do that.
No, I know. Well, the thing is, we love our patterns because we know them so well.
Because when I said yes at first, Lindsay, I didn't think about that. But then I started to feel annoyed. And to a degree, I felt anger.
Yeah.
So I questioned myself. I was quite surprised that I felt resentful.
Resentful.
And I think
I'm glad that we've done this, because it is very live. It's current. What I actually did today is current. I will definitely be in a different position now.
You said 3 things are important to you: freedom, space, and time. So when anybody asks you to do anything that encroaches on those 3 things, then think about it before you say yes.
I'm just writing that down. Freedom, space, and time.
Yeah. Okay, Dawn, I think we're done for today.
Thank you.
We are, Thank you so much, Dawn.
Thank
absolutely you. Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much
to watch the pair of you.
Thank you too. Thanks very much to both of you.